It's Today in EVE Online, Tuesday, January 28th, 2020. Well, so far this morning, there's been a lot of activity up north in the Tenal area. There was a number of iHubs that were taken out. I think there was a total of 4 or 5. One of them was a staging ground for Ranger Regiment Alliance, which is an alliance in the Dead Coalition. And that's a bad sign for Dead Coalition because Ranger Regiment is one of their biggest and strongest alliances. So if they're getting knocked out and they will retreat, I believe, to Branch, then that is a significant setback for that coalition. It is under siege by, today, Northern Coalition with a bit of help from Horde and Fraternity. You also have Pandemic Legion in there as well. So it would be interesting to see how much they can bounce back from this sort of a defeat. So let me go look at, there was a message from the leader of the Dead Coalition. It's kind of a morale boost where he writes, "To my friends in RR," that's Ranger Regiment, "I hope one of you can translate this to everyone." And he says that because RR are the Chinese mostly. So somebody will need to translate it to Chinese. Okay, and here's the message. Recently, there have been worry from people in our alliance over the future of the war and what it means to be in the coalition. I want you guys to know that the coalition will defend you all to the last ISK we have. Losing the iHub today, while it hurt overall, means nothing. Fraternity stabbed us in the back. Fraternity stabbed us and you all in the back. I hope all, or you, will continue to fight like me and other alliances, and I will keep doing my best to help all of you as I can. I and the coalition have endless respect and love for RR and our enemies and our other Chinese allies. I hope all of you and your family stay safe from the virus. I apologize if I do not always answer messages here. I cannot understand Chinese, so I need to use a translator. But you are all welcome to private message me too. Thank you, Sort Dragon. Interesting. This on the defeat of an iHub in the staging system for RR, so they suffered a big defeat. That staging system was ZHE. Let's have a look at that. According to Dotland Eve. ZH3, I think I might have said something else, but if I did, it's ZH3 TAC BS. Plop that in. And this is Tino. Let me shrink that so it can fit in the screen. I'll just make some adjustments here. There you go. If you can't see, it's bottom left of Tenal. It's on a pipe, and it has good access to Branch, it looks like. So it makes sense that Ranger Regiment is going to leave that staging area and move back to Branch because they're right near the entrances to it there. Looks like Sav is dropping in J1. NC is captured SF. That was a while ago on the other side of the region. And checking who, MSN, I should know that. MSN is Stars of Northern Moon. I'm not sure MSN might be renting / holding. I don't know. Anyway, you can see it's all annexed on the right side. Let's actually pull up a battle map that has been made public. or at least it's been pinged out. So I'll throw that on screen. Make it a little easier to see what's going on. There you go. So you can see that today they rated ZJ TAC 000. That is the neighboring system to ZH3 TAC BS, which was the staging for RR. Since that iHub went down, you can expect that the Keepstar in ZH will either have to be taken down and moved out very carefully, or it will be destroyed. Because once an iHub goes down, the Keepstar will follow. It was determined, I think, last summer that fighting over a Keepstar was not a very determinate battle. That once you got to a point where you could assault the Keepstar, it was pretty routine to be able to take it down, to destroy it. So what people started doing is defending themselves not during a Keepstar battle, but during the precursor to a Keepstar battle, which would be the battle over the iHub. The iHub contains the defensive bonuses for a system, which also protect the Keepstar. So if you hold your ground and hold your defensive bonuses, that locks your Keepstar in a safe place, because it can't be very easily attacked without the iHub being there, with the iHub being there to defend it. So all the fights have really been after those iHubs. And once the iHub falls, it's basically time to retreat, and the Keepstar is left behind to be destroyed. And if you're lucky, you saw it coming and you took it down. It does take a week or so. It takes 7 days from the moment you switch it to unanchor mode. And that is not a visible clock, so nobody knows when that is. But you have to wait 7 days. So it's kind of you have to wait 7 days. And by the time you're taking down a Keepstar, everybody's watching it. So people will be on it like 24/7. All right, that's what's going on there. Let's see. There was some stuff too that I wanted to talk about on our Eve. And I wanted to actually move it over to talking in stations, because we have a subreddit too. And that's where we collect like all the stuff that is interesting. But just some of the stuff, if I were to organize this by, actually, let me change away from that. There you go. So you can see. Yeah, I'm in night mode on this thing, so it might be hard to see, but let's see what we can do. A key propagandist from Goonswarm has moved to test. I wasn't sure if it was real, because you just never know, but let me get into the right place here. So when you pull up Reddit, if you're going to use it, the way I use it, I usually select top for the top posts, and I switch it to today. You know, we can see what's happened in the last 24 hours in EVE Online. Well, here is, to start, the Siege Green Keepstar. There's a picture of it now. And looks like it's just about to finish. It should be finishing probably about now. So once that's finishing its anchoring process, it doesn't look like it will be taken out, then it is able to be turned on and defenses put up. And this is in lowsec space, so you don't have an iHub for sovereignty protection. Instead, it's vulnerable constant. It's in a different state of vulnerability than it would be in nullsec. However, you have some of the benefits of living in lowsec. And one is that this system that they're in, I'll point to it, is hard to get to. So you really have to be motivated to get to it. If I go to the EVE universe, this Keepstar is located in It's actually in Hamatar, but I'm going to go through sync liaison so you can kind of get an idea of where it's at in comparison to the Dodixie, for instance. Again, this Keepstar belongs to Siege Green, but if you look all the way down here, there's an old system called Gel. And that used to be a really popular system. It's had a lot of agents in it. And Gel also had really good proximity to lowsec. So if you go and let's zoom in on that. So if you go to in Dotland, the bottom of the map, you'll see Siseid. It's Siseide Hamatar, and that is the adjacent system to Eggheland, and that is where the Keepstar is in this. It's over here. It's in this really busy area, basically the Amamaki area. So you've probably heard of Amamaki. There's a Amamaki is again the traditional home of PL when they're kind of off duty. This is a place they like to base out of because it has access to Devoid, has access to Metropolis, has access to Hamatar, has access to Dodixie, a little bit of sorry, not Dodixie, but Sync Liaison, the region that Dodixie is in, and that gives them good proximity. It also happens to be in the middle of faction war, so it's just kind of also in the Bleak Lands, which is a busy area too, at least with faction war. So it's got good proximity to all these things, all these other regions. And it's been a base for pirates for a long time that people want a PvP basically. So Siege Green putting a Keepstar in that area is an interesting move, and we'll see how that works out. Again, Siege Green is a Korean alliance, so they are hard to contest in their time zone, and that's a time zone where the US and EU usually aren't around, or the Russians for that matter. Russians are close to that time zone, but maybe Chinese are, but there's no Chinese right now that want to contest this sort of thing. They were asked to come try and destroy it while it was anchoring, but the idea of getting a Keepstar kill mail, although is very desirable, you certainly don't want to screw over the wrong people. And right now, I think Siege Green is courted by many people because they are an established Korean alliance, and with localization that just kicked in for Korean players, it is expected and even seen that a lot of Korean players are starting to play EVE Online, and you do not want to upset them as they are starting to grow their population in their time zone, because you may need to call on them or ally with them, but you certainly don't want them as an enemy. So it's a good time for them to do diplomatic work. So that's it. Siseid down there, and that is the Keepstar that is put up by Siege Green. So that's what that is. Looks like Tranquility had some DDoS, I think. Attacks. I think I saw that. So yeah, DDoS is basically when the servers have a ton of login requests and they're overwhelmed. I think it's a denial of service, I think. And hackers will do that when they want to kind of take down a website. So when they do that to EVE Online, there's ways that it protects itself, but sometimes they get through. And it's people messing around, really. Huh. Where did that go? There was something I was looking at. Here it is. How I became a member of Test. It is the #1 post on Reddit right now. And it's by a guy named Naz Al Ghul. I've seen him around. He was a Goonswarm propagandist. He's the one that came up with the peace be unto him when talking about Mittani, and he does a lot of role play voice stuff. He writes in a role play / meme kind of way for entertainment purposes. But he's moving over to Test, and he explains why. I didn't actually read it, but you can. It was just interesting. It looked like it was authentic. I read some of the comments, and that's kind of an interesting development, because he's kind of a staple with Goonswarm, at least lately. All right. I think that is all. There's probably a lot of other things that I'm missing right now. But let's go back to timer board. This used to have like 5 iHub timers that were in Tenal, but now they're down to 1. And that's not for another 19 hours. So it looks like all those went down to, there's at least 6 before, 5 or 6 before that just all went down to NC dot. I don't know, is it a turning point? Could be. Let me actually hey guys, I didn't actually say good morning to the crowd that was there, but there you are. Okay, last thing I want to look at. Yeah, let's go back here. I don't know if you guys know how to use .lan Eve. It's got a lot of great information. It's not the most beautiful website. It really doesn't need to be. It just needs to get you that information. It's quite a bit of information that is debatable on how much it should really give to players, because you can really see what's going on out there sometimes in real time. And that is like it's a big debate inside of EVE Online. Should you have situational awareness from third-party applications that are give you too much information, so you can make informed decisions a lot quicker than you should be able to. You should earn your information through the game. Is one way of looking at it. Another way of looking at it is people want to be in touch with what's going on in the game when they can't play it. Good point here by Hager. The turning point for the war in the north was actually last Friday when they took out 9 iHubs, but they actually dropped the ball on the ZH3. Well, today they went back and picked up the ball in ZH3 and took that out. So 9 iHubs Friday. Today they took out 5 more, I think, or they're going to take out a 5th in 19 hours. That is a significant rollback, hence the mail from the Defenders Dead coalition leader, Sword Dragon, to his Ranger Regiment alliance saying, stick with us. And stick with us, don't catch the virus, I'm going to spend all my money defending you guys, etc. It's basically a morale boost. So that's interesting. I think what was interesting about that I haven't explored yet fully is Sword Dragon says Fraternity backstabbed you. And I don't know what that means, because Fraternity, as far as I know, hadn't really taken a side until recently. And in doing so, was it a betrayal of some sort? Did they have some kind of deal worked out where they wouldn't attack Ranger Regiment? Unless he means some kind of ethnic betrayal in general, that it's just understood that Chinese players won't attack others, but that can't be right. I think there might have been possibly something there, some kind of a deal, some kind of non-aggression pact, or I don't know what he's talking about. It's okay. The reason I brought this back up, and then we'll end after this, right, is .lan has statistics that we like to look at to see where most of the fighting is. I already know if I click this most violent systems in the last 3 hours that we'll see Tenal there, as you can see, because that's where the iHubs are being taken down by Northern Coalition. Venal is a neighboring area, so that might be a part of that. So these two most violent regions in nullsec are NC dot basically pummeling Dead Coalition. And if you look here, the actual system where a lot of that combat took place was ZH3, which we just talked about, the former staging ground, and the neighboring system, ZJ TAC QOO. Earlier I said ZJ TAC OOO, and it's not, it's QOO. Those are in Tenal, so is I1 TAC. So those three systems are where fights happen, probably in the defensive iHubs, and those were all, I believe, taken down. So destroyed. In lowsec, and this would be interesting to see if there's any activity. Yeah, here it is in Secede. That's where the Siege Green Keepstar is onlining or anchoring at this moment. And only 23 people have been destroyed in that area. So that's just typical skirmishing. So there's no resistance to that Keepstar coming down. Now, this is interesting to me. Most active systems, and I don't know how he rates this, but yeah, I guess NPC kills. There it is right here, this information. So in the last 24 hours of NPC kills, and this will be a good thing to look at into the future. Most active areas are MTAC V and Cobalt Edge. And so there's a lot of ratting going on in Cobalt Edge. Let's have a look at that. That's Horde space. I'm going to hit the region here so we can see where it is. That's not the one I wanted. If you hit this little map next to the name, it takes you to the region. So, yeah, so Rect is Horde. VVV is Vini Vidi Vici or something, and that's an actual Chinese group. So they have a couple constellations there. MSN, somebody told me who they were, and I have forgotten. But MSN Holding, if I look at their characteristics, I need to find out about this group. If you know, tell me. All right, let me read some of the comments here. Is Vili still on the offensive? The answer is yes, technically. Realistically, they haven't found their footing. We talked about that at length yesterday with test member Delacar. So check out yesterday's show, wherever you get this show. It would be yesterday's show. And I've spent the first 15, 20 minutes talking about Test's role there. So yeah. Vili himself has not, I haven't seen him in weeks either. ProGod, I think, was just on the Pando FC Chat stream. We'll publish that podcast today. So you can probably find out more information on the Pando podcast and also on yesterday's Today in EVE Online. What about the part where he blamed Fraternity for backstabbing them? I was talking about that earlier, and I don't know specifically what Sword Dragon is referring to when he says that Fraternity backstabbed you when he's talking to Ranger Regiment in that note. I do not know what he's talking about. If there was some agreement, then I have some ideas about it. Fraternity was neutral in the last, for the last few months, I believe. More or less neutral. People say that they're just a proxy or a part of NCPL. That's why they're called PandaFam, right? That's the mascot of Fraternity, because they're a Chinese alliance, is a panda bear. And so the joke is that PanFam, which is Northern Coalition, Horde, Pandemic Horde, and Pandemic Legion, PanFam, are basically merged with Fraternity 2, so it's PandaFam. And it's just kind of a joke because they kind of have helped each other in the past a little bit. But it's a difficult decision, I think, for Fraternity to go to war against Ranger Regiment because there is no grudge there. And it's also, you don't want to upset the other Chinese alliance in the game. There's like 4 of them, and they're all big and powerful. But Fraternity does not like for personal reasons, Army of Mango. So there's a lot of tension there. And Army of Mango, I believe, is helping Ranger Regiment. Now, this may be part of the Miss Bunny thing that happened where she put a bunch of money into the game, and she's a big player in Army of Mango, and she put a bunch of money into Ranger Regiment. She invested in them, and they wanted to treat her like a queen. And it might have been ceremonial, but it was also very realistic. She was buying some things for their defense, and so there is a unification process happening there. And so Fraternity, who doesn't like Army of Mango, looks like they're joining Pandemic PanFam in earnest. And so instead of being neutral and trying to navigate the Chinese time zone without ticking off Ranger Regiment, it may be sorts referring to that, like, hey, they stayed out of it for a while, but you can see they've now betrayed you. They are your enemy. And I think that's Sword Dragon's way of enticing Ranger Regiment to fight back, or to stick with him and to fight back. It's all politics. This happens all day long, every day. People send messages back and forth. Pressure is put on different people to convince them to help out. This is the diplomatic part of EVE Online that is not very well reported because a lot of the stuff has to stay secret. But this is probably the most interesting part of the game. I also feel like there's an interesting other dynamic that happens. Alliance leaders do reach out to one another and try to negotiate help and that sort of thing. But what also happens just naturally is, if you're under a lot of pressure and you are a part of a alliance like Ranger Regiment, and your home is being destroyed and your game is being disrupted because you like to build things and you like to mine and that sort of stuff, as well as PvP, then you're going to look for a better option. And so what happens is that this is prime time for corporations to peel off of alliances and join a different alliance. And so in this case, you may have people peeling off of Ranger Regiment and joining Fraternity because they speak the same language, they're active at the same time, and they're offering them a better solution. So that happens. That's just a natural thing that happens. Now, this is something I didn't talk about before, but I do want to talk about it now, and that is the diplomatics between Test, Sort Dragon, and Fraternity. And I don't know if this is that public, but it's worth exploring. I just want to caution you that it's not 100% accurate, and I'll get to why it's not at the end. But as you know, Villy decided to attack Sort Dragon because he figured Sort Dragon is not good for the game, I believe were his words, and he wants to destroy his coalition so his coalition won't vote for him to put him into office. Well, his coalition of Siberians and Chinese really wasn't enough to put him in to CSM. He actually lost by like 20 votes. It was really, really close, razor close. So when Killaby left the CSM, because he's busy in real life, that opened up that 10th spot, and Sort Dragon was able to get in. Now, why was it so close if Sort Dragon's coalition wasn't able to get him in? Well, the reason Sort Dragon got in was because Fraternity put him as number 2 on their ballot. So Fraternity put their votes into Sort Dragon to get him in to striking range of the CSM, and he was able to strike and to get in. So in some sense, Fraternity put Sort Dragon into the CSM, whether they knew it or not. And I wondered about that. I thought, why would Fraternity, of course, I was running for CSM, so I was looking at this very carefully, but why would Fraternity put him as number 2 behind their number 1 pick, which was Gobbins? Gobbins made sense to me. They were trying to work out some arrangement. They were cooperating, and that made sense. But once Gobbins got in, all those votes that were not used went to Sort Dragon, and that got him really close. So I thought that was pretty funny. You guys need to stop fighting here in chat. So the other thing that is interesting is Villy says, Sword is bad for CSM. I'm going up there to destroy his ability to get on CSM. And they are essentially going to be fighting on the same side as Fraternity, and Fraternity is the reason that Sword Dragon was able to get in. And I thought that was kind of funny. Oh, there's GigX in chat. How you doing, GigX? Good to see you. So I thought that was pretty ironic and pretty funny. But the reality of it, and this is why I said it may not be accurate. The reality of that is accurate, by the way. But what is the motivations may be different. I just thought that was kind of ironic, but the motivations were not there. I talked to leader of Fraternity, and he said, we voted for Villy. It's not like we vote against enemies. But I do think the reason that you had Gobbins at number 1 and Sword Dragon at number 2 on the Fraternity list, on the Fraternity ballot for CSM, was that they were picking people that they wanted to be diplomatically neutral with or friendly with. So they didn't want any trouble from Gobbins, and they don't want any trouble from Sword Dragon, because these are the two groups that could probably contend with Fraternity in a bad way. So I think that it was a really easy way to say, like, well, this vote means nothing to us, so we'll, because they had a candidate, but it was a very weak candidate that nobody knew, unfortunately. So what Fraternity, and I mean Winter Coalition by Fraternity, right? Because they had a whole coalition at the time. Probably said, let's help sort out over there, just to be cool with like Ranger Regiment and Sword Dragon, that sort of stuff. So I really feel like that's kind of what was going on. So anyway, that's kind of interesting, right? Like the CSM figures into it as far as a theme for the war to happen. At the same time, it's not just something that's happened today, but this was months ago, maybe almost a year ago, that the same theme was involved in this situation. So that was kind of interesting. And you know what's funny? If Fraternity had put my name instead of Sword Dragon's name at the top, I wonder what that would have been, because I came in like, I think Sword was first, and there was 2 other people, and then there was me. The other person was from the initiative. They put them as number 1, and Test put the other person as number ahead of me anyway. So it was kind of interesting. I thought, like, I probably would have been the alternate that got into CSM if I was number 2 on the Fraternity Winter ballot, but instead they put Sword Dragon there, which I wasn't aware of until afterwards, and that put Sword Dragon kind of in there. And does that matter? Do I care about it? No, absolutely not. And I'm happy not to be on the CSM, frankly, because I think it would have been a mistake to actually sign up and have to fly to Iceland twice and all that kind of stuff. Plus, I think that CCP is doing a good job right now, for the most part, despite the information they get from CSM. So I kind of feel like it's all the way it should have been. And if I had gotten on the CSM, it might have been a waste of a seat or something, you know. So I'm really happy at the way it worked out. But I do like to look at that and see the CSM as kind of a gift that alliances give out, either as a diplomatic token or as a reward for an FC or a reward for an important player in their alliance. And that's how they decide this is who's best for the game. And to me, that seems like a very interesting little gift that CCP gives nullsec alliances, that little token, the CSM vote of confidence, that they give out as a diplomatic gesture. I don't think it's good for the game necessarily, but I think it's very interesting in the confines of diplomacy and the kinds of things that you can bargain with, whether it be ISK, whether it be military power, whether it be a seat on the council. Okay. So we'll do a short one. We're trying to get these to be a lot shorter. Unless you guys have something you want to talk about, I'm willing to take some questions. There are people in here that know a lot more than I do in chat, so maybe they can help me answer questions. I mean to get these shows down to about 20 minutes to make them concise, but as you know, once we start talking about EVE Online, it's hard to stop, especially with people who are interested and want to know information. Okay, I'm going to scroll back and take some stuff. Yes, GigX, I am always docked. I am the opposite of you. But I think the representation I was offering, which is was completely different. I was very upfront about it. I'm not a in the game. I'm not, and I should never be considered a subject matter expert. But the direction I wanted to push CCP was to be more imaginative. I was thinking about this, and I just feel like the games right now are so good and so imaginative in the way they're conceptualized. Like this Death Stranding. I haven't played it, and I won't spoil it, but I'll just talk about this one aspect of it. And in video games, we have this relationship between the virtual world and our real life world. So ourselves as people, and then the personalities that we put on when we play this game. And I think it's very interesting that is a major feature of EVE Online, right? I mean, they do commercials based on this. I was there, it was real, EVE is real. They even interviewed real players, and these little vignettes, them telling you their first story of being a pirate or their first fortune they made, and they have they dress it up. So it's part of the marketing, it's part of the concept of EVE Online. At the same time, you have more work being done in this area by other games like, say, Death Stranding, where you're putting markers in other people's gameplay across the platform. I think that's what Stranding is. I'm not sure. I haven't played the game, and I don't want to spoil it, but I don't know it, so I don't want to spoil it for me either. But I think it's very interesting to that sensibility of being able to affect somebody else's game in a permanent way. EVE Online has a ton of that, but it's not done the same way. You can't leave markers or ruins in somebody else's game play where you're gone. I think there's something there. I don't know what it is. They don't have to do the exact same thing. They don't have to do Stranding and EVE Online. But those are the kinds of pathways of thinking that I would have wanted CCP to really take a look at, because the game itself is fun if you're really able to play the game as an arcade game, I call it, an action game. But for me, the sensibilities that are important about EVE Online are the ones that you can explore, leave your mark, come into and leave people's lives. All that kind of stuff is what's interesting. Hey, Killer B, how's it going?
Saw you here, so I figured I'd pop on.
Yeah. You're always welcome. In fact, you were really busy earlier, or at least NC was. Do you know how those iHubs, what happened with the iHubs there in the north?
Yeah, so there was basically Goons announced that they were going to deploy their new SIG, which is basically a subgroup of their alliance that people can join to PvP in remote areas, right? Mm-hmm. They formed a new SIG called, I actually don't know the name. It's something like Goon Swarm Exploration something.
Yeah.
It's basically a weird name of just, so they made a new SIG to deploy, and they have announced their move up for that SIG with their new doctrines. They want to try out Foons and stuff for, I think it's this weekend. Mm-hmm. So we figured we'd make a final push on the Ranger Regiment staging iHub, as well as some other key iHubs in Tenal before Goons arrive, because that would interfere with that, obviously. And we managed to do that today. So they came out today, the ZH3 iHub, which was the our staging system, and another 9 or something iHubs. We managed to kill all of them, including the staging iHub. We did outform GOTG and Goons quite significantly. Therefore, they weren't really able to contest us, and we were able to blow up the iHubs quite easily. There was a little bit of a skirmish going on at the start of the timer, I think, but Goons and that coalition had to retreat pretty quickly because they were outnumbered by so much. We managed to kill most of the FCs during that first engagement as well, which rendered them a bit. Well, I guess for that coalition, it wasn't as big of a problem to lose the FC because they stayed right next door, so the FC could just reship. But for Goons, it was definitely a big deal because the FC basically woke up in Delph again, right? And this fleet was in Tino. So yeah, that happened. We managed to kill that iHub, and RR has announced their immediate retreat to branch from Tino.
Wow, that's so Friday was probably a turning point, as somebody pointed out to us, and today you finished off that turning point. Do you think that this is a turning point?
Yeah, so well, we'll see how much the Goon SIG that is deploying this weekend is going to affect things up here. But FRT joining us in the fight was definitely a very big deal, as I said on TIS on Sunday, because it gave us the numbers advantage in what used to be that coalition's strongest time zone. It is still their strongest time zone, but now with FRT on our side, we have the numbers to beat them in their strongest time zone. And that was their big advantage, that they basically could just defensively time everything for, say, 1300 EVE time or 1100 around downtime. And we weren't really able to contest any of it because we didn't have the Chinese player base. But now we do, and we managed to make a really good push today.
Yeah. Actually, I just got another graphic in. I'll put it up. It looks like you guys have been busy since the last graphic was made, so I'll transition to that. And that's where it's at now. So you guys are really contesting a lot of Tenal, it looks like. Are you going to take out the Keepstar in KH or whatever they're...
Oh, is that H3?
Yeah.
Obviously now with the iHub being dead, there's absolutely a chance that we could. It's definitely making it a lot easier for us. But killing the Keepstar isn't really a priority for us because, as I've said earlier, we've killed the iHub and it immediately caused Rager Regiment to retreat out of the Keepstar straight away anyways, right? So they're retreating out of the Keepstar now back into branch. So there's no real need for us to kill it right now. And Keepstar timers tend to draw a lot of attention, and they tend to be kind of this all-in thing where you have to commit very hard to be able to kill it. And I think that's not something we're looking forward to. We've made a very good progress, as you can see on that map that somebody sent you.
Yeah.
And we did it by not drawing too much attention to this conflict, right? We managed it very, very low-key. Most of the reinforcements of those iHubs we killed, there weren't even fleets for them. Like, it was just a bunch of FCs grouping up with like a gang of 5 or 6 people going out reinforcing all of them. And then we looked which ones they were forming up for. Those we contested, and the rest we just kind of silently killed when they didn't care for them at all or anything like that, right? So there was a lot of kind of I don't want to call it guerrilla warfare because it wasn't really that. Obviously, there was 2 clear sides here, but we did a lot of it very low key without trying to draw too much attention to this conflict. Now, obviously, goods are getting involved. FRT are here. It's going to scale up, I think. But like for now, what we want to do is wait for goons to arrive, see how things play out with them being here, and then if we feel comfortable to kill the Keepstar, sure, we'll end up killing it. But for now, we don't have any plans to reinforce it.
Yeah. Oh, let's see. Okay. Thanks for that update. I'm getting yet another map. Let me see what I can do with this one. Yet a third map. Let's see how this one's different.
Deep pop in Twitch chat is saying, if goons really deployed, the PanFam coalition wouldn't undock. So obviously, right now, what we know is that goons are deploying that SIG that is only involving subcapital doctrines, and I'm pretty confident in our ability to deal with the goon subcap fleets, even if they're big ones, because we do have capital superiority up here. We have super capital superiority up here. Right now. Obviously, if goons decide to deploy their supers all the way up here, which at the moment I don't think will happen, but if they do, then yes, there's no way we can contest the Imperium super fleet in the current stage of the game, right? But at the moment, I don't think they will deploy their super fleet up here. And if they only deploy with subcaps, I think we can handle that with our super capital fleet quite easily.
Oh, wow. Well, what's the win condition for you guys?
So as far as I can tell, our goal is basically to, for now, we've pushed into Tina. You have to remember this whole thing started in October, November, maybe a bit earlier than that last year, right? Like, let's say September. It started in September 2019, where we deployed to HB Tag, which is in Cobalt Edge on the border to Tino. And then we dropped the fort in SF Tech, which is in Tino. There's a huge regional gap between those two systems. And then we started slowly working our way forward. So this is not like this kind of campaign where we go and post on Reddit like ProGod likes to do. And we make a big fuss. It's like, oh, we're going to evict you guys because you are bad people. We're just slowly pushing and pushing. Right now, obviously, our immediate goal is to clear Tino, make sure that we push all of the enemy forces out of Tino. We've kind of succeeded with that today because RR was the only alliance still staging in Tino at the time. Darkness and Zip Squad had already restaged to Branch, as far as I know. So that's a big deal. So we've basically managed to move all hostile forces out of Tino, and now obviously it's about securing what we've. Well, I don't want to say secure because we have no interest in holding Tino necessarily, right? But we want to fortify so that it's harder for them to push back, basically, right? And so that's what we're going to do now. We want to finish up Tino, and then we want to fortify Tino to an extent where it's at least somewhat fortified to make it an effort for them to push back. Now, with Goons coming here, I'm pretty sure that Goons are going to go on the offensive, and they're going to start reinforcing some stuff, and we want to make sure that that's going to be as hard as possible for them. And then if we do manage to secure Tino, even with Goons being here, I think then the next, logical step would be to start pushing into Branch and then see how it goes. So I guess the ultimate goals would probably be to make all of that coalition retreat into Decline as like the goal for the next, maybe like, I don't know, 3 months or something like that. And then go from there, right? Like, who knows what's going to happen in that time frame though.
You'll reassess once you get... you drive them into Decline.
Yeah, so basically drive them into Decline and then see, because Decline is a kind of a iffy region to attack. It's a very weird region. So we'll see.
Yeah, let's have a look at Decline. So here's a timer board. All right, we have all the other people joining us now too. Cable and Huvanius. How are you guys? Right.
Very silent, apparently.
Yeah, usually you're too loud or not loud enough. What's that, Killer?
This victory today was especially sweet because the last timer was on the 24th, right? So that's That's 4 days ago where they managed to defend the same iHub, right? There was a fight over the same iHub, and let me link you this in Discord, and maybe you can put it up on screen. So last week,
I check. Okay, I'm good.
Last week, I'm getting a graphic. Let's see. In the meantime, I'm going to go and look over at Decline. By the way, who is MSN? Decline region. I think the way you need to see this is actually through the universe look, so you can see that. Nope. Decline is a very long region. I don't know if you could see it here, but it's a very long region, which makes it hard to... round regions are easier to move around, right? Because you can jump in a light year radius. But when it's a long region, Decline is really broken into half. So you've got to jump all the way into the middle of it to get to the end of it. And that makes it a little more defensible.
I PM'd you a link.
Okay.
This was Sword Dragon's last ping, like 4 days ago when they originally managed to defend this iHub, right? Right the second when the iHub was defended, he pinged that out to his coalition. And if you ping out something like that, that is obviously just asking for, you should not ping something like that ever. Because now, 4 days later, we killed the iHub. And now, obviously, we get to make all the fun of him for pinging that 4 days ago.
Okay.
So that's why I'm personally always very cautious with making smug pings. Because people save them and then they get back to you with them.
So describe the ping. It is probably about 200 characters of ha 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 ha. And he's eating that today, isn't he?
Yeah, basically, today he pinged out a nice moral thing today. when the iHub was lost.
Yeah, I read it out today. What did he mean by fraternity has backstabbed you?
Oh, which thing is that? I didn't see that one.
Okay,
Let me see.
Let me get back to it. It's just one line of many, but it caught my attention because I wasn't sure. He basically says, to my friends in RR, I hope someone can translate this. Recently, there has been worry about the future of the war and what it means for the coalition. I want you guys to know that the coalition will defend you all to the last ISK that we have. Losing the iHub today will hurt. Overall, it means nothing. Fraternity stabbed us and you in the back.
Oh yeah, there it is. Like I see it now. Oh, interesting. Well, I don't. So you should probably get Noras on for that because he's way better worse in the Chinese politics. They are very confusing to me, and I tend to just try to keep my head out of them.
Mm-hmm.
We have basically. This might sound weird, but we have a person in NC Dot who is our official, and like he's basically our official Chinese Eve politics ambassador. So he's basically responsible of knowing all the politics going on between all of the Chinese alliances in the game. And he keeps tabs on all of that. And he's very close to a lot of the leaders of the different Chinese alliances.
Mm-hmm.
So he has all the sides and stuff. And I leave all that stuff to him because I don't want to get involved in that.
Mm-hmm.
And he does a really good job at sort of TLDRing it all for us. Like basically a couple of weeks ago, we had an FC briefing, and Vince basically asked him, so can you sort of TLDR the stuff that is going on between the Chinese alliances for us? And then he did that, and I didn't really listen too much. But yeah, so we have a person that deals with that because I don't want to.
That's what I thought. So there's like complication and nuance to the inter-Chinese diplomatic stuff that goes on. So Sort might be saying like fraternity backstabbed you. You're both Chinese, and or there might have been something official that was done. But I hadn't heard of anything official. I think there's like a lot of unofficial posturing between groups, but. Yeah, so I didn't know. I'm going to look into that, though. Can you tell me, though, who MSN is? Like,
no, I don't want to disrespect them because they've been working with us for some time now. Basically, since day one, they've been working with us because they did live, or they do live in Cobalt Edge, as far as I know. But let me just look them up on Dotland real quick.
Yeah, I don't want to disrespect them either. I just see them around, and I'm trying to figure out who they are. When I looked them up, it didn't give me any clues. But somebody told me recently, or these guys have been mentioned recently.
What is the full name of the alliance? Do you know?
Yeah, let me grab it. Oops.
It's also, I should also point out that I've tried to, obviously I was not very active in FCing lately, and I've tried to keep my focus on NC internal stuff. So I haven't really done a lot of outside work.
It's the Stars of Northern Moon, run by Kobe Shane Ha. Alliance history. Oh, that's it. Yeah, Stars.
The name definitely rings a bell. They've been showing up on every battle report that VVV and them were involved in. I'm just gonna assume that they're allies of VVV, and they kind of just show up together with VVV whenever they show up, basically.
Yeah. So somebody says here they live next to VVV. We'll find out more about them. Yeah, Stars of Northern Moons. I'll have to find out more about them. I have heard of them. Somebody's talked about them. I just it's slipping my mind. Yeah, so that's what I've heard too, Mr. Hutter there, that they are friends of VVV. So maybe they're maybe a fifth Chinese alliance. Be interesting. All right, thanks, Killa B. That's awesome catch up right there. Cable. Are you still there? What's your situation today?
Let's not discuss that.
He got in trouble for discussing it yesterday. So if you want to hear something really interesting, go to yesterday's show and listen to it.
No.
It's like Cable's departure from Volta. But yeah, so I just got through all the news that I was going to cover, unless there's something you guys want to cover. You guys seen anything out there? Do you want to?
Maybe I just want to say that I really something that keeps getting undervalued is, and it's also important that I think the members of NC appreciate this, that like the amount of help we've been receiving from FRT and VVV and MSN is really the reason why we've been able to make so much progress.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes people tend to forget them because it's like, oh, it's PL and NC and Horde, right? Like it's PanFam, but it's not just PanFam. It's also those people, and they are very important to this whole campaign. Without them, we basically were at a point where we kind of stalled because we couldn't make any progress in a Chinese time zone. But VVV has made incredible progress in growing their. VVV are one of the youngest Chinese alliances on the server, right? That's one thing to keep in mind. So they literally started, like the first time we worked with them, they were flying Condors, the frigate, right?
Yeah.
Because they couldn't fly anything else. And then they started doing Dominixes, which I have to say is a bit of a weird choice. But, they just did what they wanted to. So they did Dommies, and, it was fine. It was fine. And then we asked them basically to start training into Munins, and obviously the step into Munins was Hurricanes. And then we had this one really big fight where VVV showed up. I think it was like a full fleet of Hurricanes, right? They had like 250 Hurricanes or something. And yeah, those Hurricanes die fast, obviously. They basically have no tank, but man, they shredded so many Eagles in that fight, or Munins, right? I think it was a fight versus Dead Coalition, and Dead Coalition was in Munins, and VVV was in Hurricanes, and we were just killing Munins left and right. So the battle report at the end, it was like, I think like 130 Hurricanes died and like 30 Munins. But funnily enough, 30 Munins are worth a lot more than 130 Hurricanes, right? So the battle report looked awesome, and I think everybody involved in it had fun. And that's really something that I appreciate about the Chinese way of playing the game. A lot of those older groups, if of the game, they tend to play it very safe. I include myself in that. I'm also a very cautious FC. I don't just feed. Like I don't take a fight where I know I'm going to bleed half my fleet, even though I could be maybe bleeding half the enemy fleet as well, unless I want to win the strategic objective, and that does that for me, right? But they just don't care, and I really appreciate their attitude towards it, where they just go in with their full Hurricane fleet, and they do not warp out. They don't care. They stay until the last Hurricane is dead, right? They just brawl it out, and that's something that this game needs, and I really think that maybe we should play a bit more like that as well.
Yeah, I like the way that the people from different countries fight, because I think Russians early on were known for that sort of thing. There's like, I think one of the things I heard was there's a guy in a battleship and a 3 or 4 Russian guys in battleships on one side of the gate, and the American guy says there's like 40 people on the other side of that gate, and the Russian guy's like, let's go. They actually jumped into that. It's just relentless. Yeah, so they've grown to, 2,000 members. And it looks like they're on an upward trajectory. So that is pretty good. Whatever they're doing is working. See if I can get to statistics. Yeah, look at that growth pattern. September, they were at about 600. Today, they're sitting at about 2,000. That is a massive growth pattern. That's like 4 months, September. That's like 6 months. So yeah, they are growing big. Well, we mentioned them, or we try to mention them. We'll mention them more often as we look into this stuff. So they're the ones that are putting you guys over the top, in other words.
Yes, them, MSN, and FRT. It was kind of evenish with VVV and MSN, and we could still struggle to make some progress because just of the ship types and some other factors. But now with FRT, that just completely puts us over the top. We outnumbered that coalition today by quite a bit, and that did involve also a goon fleet that came all the way up from Delve. So yeah, we now have number superiority in every way, I think. So this is why goon's deployment up here is definitely necessary for them to hopefully tip the scales back a bit.
Cool. Well, one of our moderators, Tiger, there is he moderates. He's one of the moderators for our Chinese channel. We have a Chinese language channel in Talking in Stations Discord, and he says that VVV used to be snuffed out of Serenity, basically. So That is interesting. So they're not without skills then. Well, anyway, if you guys have more questions or interest, we have a Chinese language channel and we have some good guys in there that post some stuff. So I think you can speak English in there and ask questions and stuff, but it's mostly a channel for Chinese to communicate with each other. Well, that's cool. Thanks, Killer B, for stopping by and actually dropping some actual news. I guess I'm going to call it quits today. It's been an hour. I'm going to try to get these down to 20 minutes again. We will be back tomorrow and every day that I can do it. If you want, this comes in the form of a podcast. Obviously, it goes over to YouTube, so you can see it there. The podcast is not a part of Talking In Station. It's its own podcast. Look it up by name. It's called Today in EVE Online. So thanks, Killa. Thanks, Juvenes. Thanks, Cable. And thank you guys for showing up today. We're going to look for someone to raid now. And we will see you next time.
Bye.
Take care.
Let's see. Oh, there's no one. All right, we're going to delay, so stay with us. We're going to actually go and look manually. Not many people are playing EVE Online. Or I need to friend more people. Oh, let's see. Is this Jebby or someone? I, the worst player. I think this is Lucy Lou. I forget who this is. Who is I am the worst EVE player? Or I worst EVE player? Anyway, we'll put you on to him. I think it might be Russian, but it seems like a good place to go. All right, guys. Enjoy some PvP, I think. And we'll see you next time. Take care.